We live in a time where it's perfectly acceptable to wear your own natural hair as it grows out of your head. But believe it or not, this has not always been the case. Before the hippie movements and natural hair movements of the 60s and 70s, women were pretty much required to have their hair styled in some sort of way anytime they left the house. And cultural and societal norms at the time pretty much mandated this. In those days, it was a matter of conformity, and hairstyles were strictly adhered to. Going out into public without adhering to those rules could label you as unkempt or slovenly, or subject you to ridicule from your peers. It was essentially a woman's obligation to make sure that her hair was perfectly groomed, styled, and coiffed into a socially acceptable style. And indeed, men needed to be well groomed as well. But of course, there wasn't as much pressure put on them. And if you had naturally fine, stick straight, or lifeless hair, you probably had your hair permed so that it could stay styled for a longer period of time. Or if you had naturally very curly or coily hair, you probably had your hair relaxed or pressed out to meet the beauty standards of the time. But this all changed in the late 1960s when the hippie movement rejected these norms and told men and women to embrace their natural, authentic self, including their natural hair as it grew out of their head. And so, for the first time in a long time, women started to embrace their natural hair. They weren't curling it or setting it in rollers or pin curls or teasing or hairspraying it, not straightening it or relaxing it or perming it, but simply letting it be wild and free, whether it was naturally straight, naturally wavy, naturally curly, or coily. It was now perfectly acceptable to just wear your own natural hair. It's funny to think of nowadays because nobody bats an eyelash when you go out with just your hair freshly washed and maybe brushed and nothing else. But back in the old days before the 1960s, you really did have to have your hair in a style. Otherwise, it just wasn't, socially acceptable. So the 60s movement with the hippies and all of that and the natural movement that came about with it really changed things, and it had everlasting effects all the way until now, until the present day. So it was definitely a revolutionary time, and beauty was part of that revolution, rejecting, these norms and these rules that were placed upon people, especially women. And it allowed people to be more free and, choose what they wanted to do with their hair. But I have a question for you all. Do you think we've gone too far in the other direction? Do you think we no longer put enough attention to our appearance? When we go out without even having our hair brushed or thrown back in a messy bun. Do you think we've gone too far to the other extreme, or should people just be allowed to do whatever they feel or look however they want to look? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say.